Hey everybody, it's Bible study time. Good evening, good evening. I'm so glad to be here to deliver another Bible study for y'all. We're on the first month of a new year. We're trending well. And I want to just start off with, if you all find any of my content relevant, if you find it interesting, intriguing, thought-provoking, any of that, please click subscribe. Please like the content and please follow. That way the content will automatically default to your timelines. You don't have to come looking for it. And you don't have to just see it just by scrolling or typing in keywords. It'll automatically populate to you and you will be notified once I do my Bible studies and they upload. Super excited about the word tonight. We're going to be speaking out of 1 Kings. We're going to be speaking 1 Kings chapter 10 today, and then we're going to skip over to chapter 11. We're going to be speaking about King Solomon, y'all. And this is one of my loves. This is getting to the good part of the book that I really love and I've been pondering for a very long time. So I'm excited about the word today. Let's start with invoking the Spirit of God to lead and direct me in the interpretation of his word. Father and Mother, I come before you in love, asking for the clarity of mind, for your energy to cover me, to direct the words that come out of my mouth as they relate to the interpretation and to the words that are bound within these books. I love you and I thank you. Stand with me, cover me, and protect me. In love I come before you, giving you thanks as always. Amen. All right, y'all. So, okay. Happy to be speaking to this tonight. This is going to be an interesting read. Again, we are going to be speaking out of 1 Kings chapter 10. Verse 1 through 15, I might hop and skip, and then chapter 11, 1 through 3, very short. Then I'm going to cross-reference some things with the book of Enoch, just to add some clarity to give it a little bit more body to the perspective that I'm going to give you today. As with all of my Bible studies, these are my perspectives. These are things that I've been pondering for a long time in search of truth, in search of the God within me and the God that permeates throughout the entire universe and throughout this entire world. And so I have to go into different places to find the truth because nothing is ever found in one place, y'all. You got to look around. And a lot of this has to do with just life experiences as well. You know, you could read this Bible all day long and ingest this word, but if you don't go out and live and experience, you have really there's nothing to relate it to. We serve a living God. We serve a God of activity. We have an action-oriented God. We serve a courageous God. And all of God's children, whether men or women, are courageous, y'all. It is the things of this world that try to punk out the courage in you. They try to strip you of that courage, water you down. That is not the way of the children. The children are righteous by nature, and the children are courageous because in order to be a child of God, you have to be. Because once you come into the acknowledgement and the totality of that, all kind of things start popping off. All kind of things start coming your way. And it takes the courage, it takes the knowing to continue on even through all the adversity that comes your way, just by wearing the crown that is upon your head, just by being birthed into this world of light. I'm going to get started today. I don't want to get lost because I'll spend all day on just that. But let's read here. So we are in 1 Kings chapter 10. And when the Queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon, okay, let me back up. Okay, we are reading chapter 10, but I want to back up. Chapter 10, 1 through 15, chapter 11, 1 through 3, but I forgot. I want to touch on chapter 9, and I'm going to read one verse, that's chapter 9, verse 3. So let's start with that. And the Lord said unto him, I have heard thy prayer and thy supplication that thou hast made before me. I have hallowed this house which thou hast built, to put my name there forever, and mine eyes and mine heart shall be there perpetually. I'm going to go to chapter 4. I'm going to go to verse 4. And if thou wilt walk before me, as David thy father walked, in integrity of heart and in uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded thee, and will keep my statutes and my judgments, verse 5, then will I establish the throne of thy kingdom upon Israel forever, as I promised to David thy father, saying, there shall not fail thee a man upon the throne of Israel. That's what God spoke to Solomon. Let's go over to chapter 10. And when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to prove him with hard questions. And she came to Jerusalem with a very great train, with camels that bear spices and very much gold and precious stones. And when she was come to Solomon, she communed with him of all that was in her heart. And Solomon told her all her questions, that was not anything hid from the king, which he told her not. And when the queen of Sheba had seen all of Solomon's wisdom, and the house that he had built, and the meat of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers, and the apparel, and his cupbearers, and his ascent by which he went up into the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her. And she said to the king, it was a true report that I heard in mine own land of thy acts and of thy wisdom. Howbeit I believed not the words until I came, and my eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not told me. Thy wisdom and prosperity exceedeth the fame which I heard. Happy are thy men, happy are these thy servants, which stand continually before thee, and that hear thy wisdom. Blessed be the Lord thy God, which delighted in thee, to set thee on the throne of Israel. Because the Lord loved Israel forever, therefore made he thee king to do judgment and justice. And she gave the king 120 talents of gold, and of spices, very great store, and precious stones. There came no more such abundance of spices as these which the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. And the navy also of Hiram, that brought gold from Ophir, brought in from Ophir great plenty of almug trees and precious stones. And the king made of the almug trees pillars for the house of the Lord, and for the king's house, harps, also and psalteries for singers. There came no such almug trees, nor were seen unto this day. And King Solomon gave unto the queen of Sheba all her desire, whatsoever she asked, beside that which King Solomon gave her of his royal bounty. So she turned and went to her own country, she and her servants. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in the year was 636 talents of gold. Beside that he had the merchantmen, and of the traffic of the spice merchants, and of all the kings of Arabia, and of the governors of the country. Okay, last thing, we're gonna go to chapter 11, verse 1 through 3, and then we're gonna go in. Chapter 11, verse 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, woman of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites. Of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go in unto them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. All right. Okay, y'all. So I'm not going to get into all that has transpired up until then to now. I will get into that later because this is just going to elongate the Bible study. So we're just going to focus on this text. What is going on here is David has transitioned. The throne has been granted to his son Solomon. Solomon is a righteous man, just like his father David. David reared him up in the way of the Lord. All of David's prophets, priests, and his army leaders are all now they are now counseling and supporting his son Solomon. So there's no new people. Everybody in the circle is trustworthy and has proven themselves. Nathan, Benaiah, and Zadok, the priest. So Solomon is, David had a very tumultuous life. David proved himself by way of his activities and all of the trials and tribulations he went through to prove his heart to God. And God blessed him and found him righteous and worthy and blessed him. But, Hiram came and built the house of David in the city of Zion. But Israel really wasn't established economically. They were still teetering off of, they were still in transition from being a warlike community, because Hiram and the Phoenicians and Zidonians, basically same thing, taught Israel a lot. They had a very close relationship. I told you that these Zidonians, Phoenicians were master shipbuilders. These were your tradesmen. These are your middlemen in between nations. These were the people that took to the sea and they made relationships and they could connect people. Okay? So, and they could learn different things and bring them back and teach people. These are your consultants. These are your consultants on war techniques. These are your people that are consulting on sailing and navigating the seas. These are your people that are master architects. I'm talking about everything you see is springboarded off of what the Phoenicians did. I'm going to say that. Everything you see comes from Phoenicia as far as architecture. These are masters. You don't get any better. See, and this is the part that they don't tell you. This is the marvelous and the spectacular history. These Phoenicians are your Hannibals that go into the Alps and that go into places that people normally couldn't go into with the wisdom of knowing what animals to take. They take in elephants. Oh my God, it is humbling. Just remember that when you start feeling down. Remember the greatness of which you came from. Did you talk about courage? That's the Phoenicians. That's just the top note of it. These same Phoenicians knew of the God Yahweh. These same Phoenicians, every letter in this book, these people basically created. Let me give you an understanding to this. I'm going to break it down a little simpler. And you correct me if I'm wrong. These same Phoenicians, when you talk about phonics and phonetics, you're talking about them. When you talk about phonics and phonetics, you're speaking to the verbal vernacular, the alphabet, spoken word, as we all know it. That is them. Before them, it was hieroglyphs. It was other forms of writing, cuneiform writing, but it was no universal language. It was no organized system that everyone could use. Before the Phoenicians, many people could not read and write. Only the priesthood and the pharaoh or the king could do that, if even they could. This is how powerful this go back, you guys. A lot of these things we overlook because we don't know the history. When you know the history, a lot of things start coming together. So Hiram has partnered with Israel. Hiram establishes Israel. This is the point where Israel makes their presence known amongst the nations. They become a mighty adversary or a mighty friend. Okay? Hiram comes. He brings cedar trees. I told you the symbology behind the cedar. Protection. Strength. I mean, it got all kind of health benefits. Nothing but goodness it symbolizes. Power. Longevity. This is cedar. David was living in a house of cedar when he thought about the ark. And this is what got him blessed. Because basically he was living good. He had the world under his feet. And he thinks of the ark and says, I'm living in this house of cedar while that ark is in the desert surrounded by curtains. I'm going to build God a house. And then God comes and says, I don't need you to build me a house. I'm the spirit that makes the cedar what it is. But I thank you for looking out for me, bruh. I see how you're thinking. I like how you're thinking. And because that's how you're thinking, look what I'll do for you. Go ahead and take that. And David says, how do I even acknowledge this? You have blessed me with something that I could never even wrap my whole mind around, as if it was nothing. This is what David said. He blessed David's whole generation. Watch. David has transitioned. His son Solomon is on the throne. They tried to maneuver him out of it. All this political stuff is starting to pop off because now it's a power thing now, money and power and prestige. You got different sects working with one another behind the scenes. Nonetheless, Solomon is now king. God just said, I just read to you what God said. He said, I have hallowed this house which thou hast built and put my name there forever, because God told David he would not let him build him a house. He was going to let his son do it, which is Solomon. And Solomon does it. And David said, God says, I've hallowed this house. Hallowed meaning I have made it empty for me to rest in it. I told you all along, spirit needs a vessel. God is saying this house is going to be my vessel. And he says, and mine eyes, he says, I have hallowed this house which thou hast built to put my name there forever. And my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. Hallelujah. No matter how long, time ain't long enough. Perpetually. Look it up. Read it. Read up on what the word perpetual means. Meanwhile, all these words we're reading are phonics of the same group of people that didn't even assist. They built the house for David because David didn't know how to do it. I'm going to keep going. So Hiram has built the house. Word is going out, and this is a marvelous place. This place, you could compare it to the temple of Amun in Egypt. I mean, if you listen to the layout of it, it is spectacular. It is comparable to all that you see in Kemet, or what we call Egypt. It is a miraculous place. It is a place that makes you wonder how they even did it. It is a statement piece. It is a gift. It is a gift that David and that his son Solomon spread out and offered up to God as a gift, as a house for God to rest in the earth. Follow me with this, y'all. So all the nations are listening. They're looking. They're like, wow, what in the what? Then it says, and King Solomon made a navy of ships in Elazon-Geber, which is beside Eloth, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. And they came to Ophir and fetched from there gold 420 talents and brought it to King Solomon. Solomon got gold by the boatloads. That's what Hiram brought him. They are making, look, this is important. It sounds like, wow, they're just blessing him with all these different riches. I just told you that Queen Sheba came with a great train of camels and bare spices and very much gold and precious stones. And when she was come to Solomon, she communed with him with all that was in her heart. It said that she gave him so much, nobody ever has seen it since. They're setting him up economically. This is a long-term venture. This is the birth of a nation. They are setting him up economically. Queen of Sheba controlled trade routes. This is an Ethiopian woman. This is a woman. So when you think that women weren't doing anything, women were doing many great things. They're just not written in this book like that. But we just see here, Queen Sheba comes to King Solomon. Whether he summons for her or she came on her own, it really doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is she came and she blessed him. She set him up economically. He cornered the market. It says here, First Kings chapter 10, verse 15. Besides that, he had of the merchantmen and of the traffic of the spice merchants and of all the kings of Arabia and of the governors of the country. He had the whole trade routes within that region on lock. You could think of it today as someone coming and just blessing a nation with warehouses and stock loads of food, spices, gold. She established a bank. I told you that the Phoenicians were master bankers. They are master tradesmen. They are shipbuilders. They are master bankers. These are people that establish cities. These are master architects. They are setting him up industrially. Israel now is a powerhouse. They are a nation. They are no longer just warriors. This is very important. So she comes to Solomon before she, yes, she comes because it was customary in those days. When you come before someone, you offer them a gift. You don't just come to somebody's house and say, hey, how you doing? No, you bring something with you. She brought many spices and all sorts of things to him, which was nothing for her. This is the queen of Ethiopia. Ethiopia at that time was centrally located within the area of land and within the sea. They had a very good relationship with Hiram, king of Phoenicia, amongst many other nations. She was the head of a strong economical trade system. You had to run it through her if you wanted to trade within that region. And that region was the central part of that country where all of the different waterways went. If you wanted to get to Asia, if you wanted to go further in Africa, if you wanted to go into the Middle East. This is more than a love story, y'all. I don't even know if it's a love story because it doesn't say that they were in love. And I'm getting off of topic, but I gotta say this in its entirety. So she comes and she blesses him. But before she comes and she gives him. But before she blesses him, she needs to know that he's worthy of her blessing. So she asked him questions. In order for her to ask him questions and to find him worthy, she already had to know the answers. Right? Or else he could have told her anything and she'd just be impressed. That tells me that she was a wise woman. She was a woman that was spiritually powerful. Not just powerful business-wise or within the earth on earthly levels. She was powerful in spirit. And they ended up making a connection. They had a child together who would go on to be the ancestor to Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. This is a royal bloodline. This is the royal bloodline of Israel. But I'm not going to go all into that because I don't want nobody to get mad at me. The reason for this Bible study is really to speak to the power of women. This is the power of women that goes unspoken. It's a hush-hush thing. Nobody really wants to speak to it for some reason, but I really want to get on that. When you go back to the beginning, if you go into the Adam and Eve story, or even if you go back to the Watchers, these messengers, these angels that were walking the earth and managing God's children that were already here on the earth. These angels, what was their sin? Their original sin was they lusted after the women of the earth. I'm going to read it to you again. The book of Enoch, chapter 6, verse 1. And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. There it is, there. The love that they had for these women was the original reason why everything kind of went left. But see, what happens is people look at that in a way of condemning women. Nowhere in the text did it say that the women provoked the men or the angels to lust after them. Nowhere. These women that were here didn't know anything. I read to you a few Bible studies ago that these women and men didn't know much of anything before the angels came and informed them. They didn't know how to beautify themselves. They didn't have earrings. They weren't arching their eyebrows. They didn't put hair in. They didn't comb their hair. They didn't wear any makeup. They didn't get dressed up. They were running around here naked. They didn't have anything. And these watchers come and they're lusting over the women. That just, I don't know why, it's been on my spirit lately. And I'm thinking, wow, what could they have lusted of? These watchers, these are masters themselves. All of God's angels are a master in their own particular aspect. You don't ever see one of God's angels going through an internship. You don't hear of, a young angel making a mistake or something like that. These are all masters. So if they are of another realm and they interact with God regularly, because remember, they come back and tell God what's going on here. They know the nature of God. And you mean to tell me that these angels decided to come down here and risk everything to be stripped of all of their power, to come down here and incarnate in this realm, to lay up with one of these women that know nothing? That's mind-blowing. You would think just because they knew how to teach them the art of beautification, basically how to sophisticate themselves, how to become educated, well-read, wise, as they say, then there had to be others that were wise in their realm for them to have the idea to pull from. They had to have seen it all before somewhere else. It does not say anywhere in the text that these angels wanted to come down here and be gods in the earth. Nowhere in the beginning, when it was established of what they did, does it say that. It speaks wholeheartedly to their attention being on the women. And as I pondered that, I thought, wow, it must not have been an aesthetic thing. It must not have been a look or an image thing. These angels fell in love with something that was internal. And that is the power of this Bible study today. That is the intention. It's to speak of the power that rests within women. When you look at King Solomon, I just spoke to Queen of Sheba. She comes and she blesses him. Without Queen of Sheba, Solomon would not have been established the way he was. She established him. She provided him the bank. She provided him all the commodities that he needed to spring forth from and establish Israel as a mighty nation economically. Hiram partnered with Israel and helped them establish themselves as a warring nation. Both of these two regions, these two nations together blessed Israel. Solomon goes on. After he gets established, Israel is established. Queen of Sheba goes back home. She has a child. Solomon goes on. And it says here, but King Solomon loved many strange women. Here come them women again. King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites. All of these regions, mind you, outside of the Pharaoh, which is Egyptian, and I might be wrong, they might even be included in this as well, were all the regions where the Nephilim were pervasive. And this is why God said, don't fool with none of these people. The Nephilim, the children of the giants, their fathers, which are the fallen angels, came into the women first. They blessed the women with the knowledge. So when you see a Queen Sheba, when you see all of these women of the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Edomites, the Zidonians, and the Hittites, all of these are either offspring or have been highly learned by the children of the Nephilim, because this is their region. This is why God is saying to him, Solomon, and to Israel, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go in unto them, neither shall they come in unto you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Yet Solomon clave unto these in love. Now, it's one thing to, have a relationship with them, have them as a concubine or something like that. But that's not what Solomon did. Solomon fell in love with them. And he created bloodlines. Same situation that these Nephilim, their forefathers, the fallen angels, did, but reversed. These fallen angels premeditatively forsook everything that they loved to come down here and come into these women and have children with them. Now, I'm going to have to say, I cannot blame the women, because if it was as it has been stated in the book of Enoch, these women didn't know anything. They were not a learned group of people. They didn't know any of the stuff that the fallen angels had taught them. They didn't know about astrology. They didn't know about root cutting. They didn't know about working with metals. They didn't know about the beautification of the eyes and the using tinctures to color the skin and to make lipstick and to oil the body. They didn't know none of this. So you got to think about that. These are people that live a primitive life. Primitive. These people barely knew how to work fire. And this was Solomon's only sin. Other than that, outside of that, he was perfect like his father. But this is exactly what happens. See, when you look at the Moabite women that came upon Israel in the beginning, this was their first issue. After Balaam went up on them 7 mountaintops and saw the children, God allowed him to see these children. I keep telling you, the things that I pronounce and that I make stand out matter. You have to take the time to ponder them. Had Balaam not seen these children in all of their different aspects, he would not have known how to undermine them. But this is like a safety clause that God put into place, because he knows the nature of these children. And he knows that these children are hard-headed. So he's like, okay, look, I'm going to let you go over here and see them, but I'm not going to let you touch them. But I know that they're going to do something eventually that's going to undermine all of that I have done for them. And then I'm going to let what you know work against them. And that's what happened. These children, they get up under the nations and they want to be like everybody. So Balaam sets them up with the Moabite women and they transgress. It's always the women. Now, this is not to say that the women are problematic, because that's not true. There are many beloved women and queens of Israel. Queen mothers, phenomenal. This whole matrix is set up off of the feminine energy of the mother. Yet she gets no acknowledgement. All we talk about is the father. Well, how could there be a father without the mother? How could there be a father and a son without the mother? It's genetically impossible. The mother is the spirit. Yet, a lot of times, when you don't follow the word of God and you align yourself to things that sparkle and that look enticing, and they are not of what God intends for you, they trip you up. These women that King Solomon aligned himself to, it says here, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. It wasn't that he couldn't have 700 wives. He was a king. He could have as many wives as he wanted to. He just needed to align what he wanted and desired to the will of God. But a lot of times we desire the things that are far away, the things that are off limits. This is the king. And he has the adoration of everyone. Yet he made his whole harem out of the women that God forbade him to go in unto. And it tripped him up. Queen Sheba was Queen of Sheba was Ethiopian. We can look at Ahab and Jezebel. That union should never have happened. It shouldn't have. Jezebel was a Zidonian. Yet the king of Israel, which was Ahab, married her and made her the queen of Israel. The queen of Israel. These are the things. And we will be getting into Jezebel hopefully next Sunday. But it was just on my spirit today about this text and how the women swing the pendulum. You can find a woman friend that will bless your life. A righteous woman will do nothing but bless your life. And because she has a skirt down to her ankles and she carries a Bible and she does this, that don't make her a righteous woman. No. A righteous woman will never lead you astray. A righteous woman is in alignment with all that God loves. She is seeking God as passionately, if not more, than you. A righteous woman will bless your house. And I'm not talking about your home. I'm talking about your house, your family unit. A righteous woman blesses her house. You know why? Because the women, and you guys are going to be feeling some kind of way about this too, but are the lawgivers. Yes. Of course, the father is the lawmaker in the house, and the woman reinforces that law within the home. Because she is the one that is with the child from the time it is out of the womb daily until it's up and able to be capable on its own. She is the only one that can really tell if that law is being reinforced. She is the daily accountability partner to the children and within the home. She is the lawgiver without people even knowing she's the lawgiver. That's how gifted she is. She is a necessary component. But a lot of times we find ourselves in relationships with women and men for other stuff, whether for ego, because they look good and they help you look good to the world, or because of economical reasons you might need some help, and so now you're going to go over here and act like you're in love when really you just need some help. Could be a number of reasons. And all these things, all they do is tear down the kingdom because they're never lasting. When you look at these fallen angels and how they came in a convention, I'm talking about it was 200 of them. How did all 200 of them meet on Mount Hermon and come to this decision? Well, how? They had been thinking of this amongst one another for a long time. For them to come to the decision to incarnate here in the flesh and to give up their ethereal, energetic bodies and to leave their home and just make this their new home, all for the love and adoration of these women, speaks volumes to what is within us as women. What is within us as women, you cannot contain. A lot of us as women don't even know the power we have. A lot of the power that we have that's stored up in us has to be cultivated by other women and shown to us as we progress. These angels saw it. These angels saw it. They saw the mother in you. They saw the daughter in you. You know what they felt? They felt the love in you. They felt that God aspect within you. And because of that, they forsook all that came before to come and be with you here. It's amazing. I'm just going off what the text says. I'd love to hear your commentary on this. A righteous woman you cannot buy. She is a rare bird, friend. I'm telling you. And a lot of times, the pure at heart, the righteous ones, they go through so much. A lot of times they're the outcasts because the righteous ones aren't going to play around with you. They're not going to compromise what is precious to fit into this nonsense. They're not. So they're the loners. They're the ones that quirky. These are the ones that these fallen angels came and sacrificed to be amongst. These disheveled, unkept, righteous women. It's amazing. The story is amazing. And I know tonight I'll be laying in my bed and I'll think about it and I'll be like, darn, I wish I would have said this or that more to it. But this is what's coming through. It's important to know the word of God, the rules of God, and it's important to align yourself to people that know it and love it just as much as you. Because a lot of times the older we get, the more serious we get with it. And then by that time, we're already established in stuff. These are the things you teach your children early that you might have learned late. King Solomon clave unto these women in love. But they were in complete contradiction to what God told him and the children. And he knew it. And because of that, his kingdom suffered. His bloodline suffered. What would have been great and monumental, and what still is, legendary by way of his father and by way of him, there was a gap in that, a large gap, because of what he did. This is a monumental and a miraculous kingdom that he established. I mean, he had big plates, gold plates with, I can go on and on and on about this, but I don't want to get too deep on it because it's really a science. When you talk about King Solomon and you talk about King David and the Davidic bloodlines, you're talking about a science. Because there is nothing more powerful than the Hebrew in this realm. The Hebrew runs it all. Nothing is more powerful than the Hebrew. The Hebrew script, the Hebrew language, the science behind it all. There's nothing more powerful. Nonetheless, y'all, this was my Bible study today. I hope it was informative, and I hope you got something out of it that you can ponder and add to whatever it is you've been tossing and tilling in your own mind. That is the reason for me coming forward, is because these are things that I've been pondering a long time, and I'm just over here giving them up. Not because I really wanted to either. God has put me in a position where I had to come forward with it. And I'm happy that I am, now that I'm getting accustomed to doing it. We're loved more than we'll ever know. That, for sure, is a fact. Whether you realize it or not. It is the love that has brought you this far. And it is the love that will carry you forward. Be good to yourselves. Stay in alignment. Seek the kingdom. I'm not talking about, acting like somebody or trying to be this way and that. No, seek the kingdom and just really wanting to know God for yourself. And God will rest upon you. It'll just lay on you, friend. I love you. Peace and love.